I want to break free. I want to break free.
Freedom from Behind Bars with me, Karen Allen. This is part 3 of a 5-part series aimed at individuals who have been incarcerated, or those of us who are not physically incarcerated but who may be still incarcerated or imprisoned in our minds. For the past 2 sessions, I've been sharing from a powerful story in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, about a young man by the name of Joseph. Joseph's story has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of ups and downs. And we've been looking at how important it is to identify when our lives are behind bars, or when our mindset is still imprisoned, although our bodies are free. And in the last session, in part 2, I looked at 4 things that can cause us to remain in an imprisoned state. And today I'm going to look at 4 more things, based again on the story of Joseph, but in a different time in his life. 4 more things that can cause us to be mentally imprisoned, emotionally imprisoned, while physically free. And unless we overcome these things, unless we break free from these things, we will live a life that is limited. We will live a life that is not fruitful. We will live a life that is not as productive as it can be. And my hope and my prayer and my goal is that you will get something, at least one thing, out of these sessions that will help you to free your mind from any form of imprisonment and enable your life to be the best life that it can be. Because I believe that you deserve it, I believe that you're worth it, and I believe that you can do it. So today we're going to look at 4 more things that cause us to be imprisoned. And the first one is bitterness. We're going to use the word B.A.R.S again as an acronym. And we're going to look at Joseph's life when he found himself actually in prison. Because in the last session, I talked about when Joseph was in the pit, when his brothers threw him in the pit, and how he, at that point in his life, must have felt betrayed and abandoned and rejected and sad as a result of their actions. And he was then taken out of the pit, sold into slavery, found himself in a slave master's house by the name of Potiphar, and then was lied upon by Potiphar's wife and found himself in prison, literally in prison, being falsely accused of rape. Now, when he got himself in this position, can you imagine how Joseph must have felt? From being the young man who was favored by his father, having a coat of many colors, having everything going for him, to now being imprisoned with strangers in a strange land, speaking a strange language, people around him speaking a strange language. 4 things that he must have felt at that moment that many of us can relate to. And the first thing is bitterness. And the word bitter means to be disappointed, to experience disappointment from being unfairly treated. Now, I'm sure that you can relate to that. Being in a situation where you may have even been falsely accused, or where you may feel wrongly done by someone, and you know that it wasn't your fault, or you know that others may have been to blame, but because of their actions, you now find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. And bitterness can often be a result of feeling disappointed. If you feel disappointment for long enough, it can turn into bitterness. And bitterness is a bar that keeps you, represents a bar that keeps you imprisoned. Bitterness is something that we need to pay attention to, because if you are living a life of bitterness because of something that you've experienced, especially when it's not been your fault, why you find yourself in that situation, that can be a dangerous place to be. So Joseph must have felt bitter at that point of his life, and he also must have felt anger. Can you imagine just how angry Joseph must have been? Not just with Potiphar's wife for lying. But, when you're in prison, I'm told, you get a lot of time to think. And now that he was incarcerated, literally in this prison cell, they say the average prison cell is 6 by 8 feet. So can you imagine being in this small confined space, being confined to a situation that you really should not, you shouldn't be in? How angry he must have felt. Even going back to what his brothers did, he must have started thinking about his past and started thinking about what his life could have been and where he found himself. And it must have caused him to be so angry. And the word angry means to have strong feelings that make you want to hurt someone. You ever felt angry in your life? You ever felt like you just want to hurt somebody? Like literally, you just want to do them some serious damage because of what they did. But what you've got to realize is that their actions has got you behind bars. You're the one imprisoned. Your anger is imprisoning you. It's not hurting them. You've got to pay attention to that. Thirdly, Joseph must have felt so resentful in that prison cell. And to be resentful means that you are forced to accept something that you do not like. When you don't like something, but you're forced to accept it. Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? And resentment can cause you to be indignant, to be so mad that it almost leaves a sting in your tongue or a sting in your actions. Because you know that you shouldn't be here. You know that you shouldn't be in this situation. Maybe it was your own actions that caused you to be in the situation. And because your own actions caused you to be in the situation, you're not only resentful at other people, but you even have a slight resentment towards yourself because you know that you know better and you shouldn't be there. But resentment is not going to help you. It's keeping you behind bars. It's keeping you locked up. It's keeping you from going where you need to go. It's keeping you blocked. It's keeping you from progressing. And the fourth thing that he must have felt is a sense of shame. Shame is a condition of feeling humiliated, disgraced, or disreputed. Disgraced. Imagine the disgrace that Joseph must have felt, because in Potiphar's house, although he was a slave, he was a respected slave because he was an intelligent young man. He was a strong young man. He was a wise young man. He was a gifted young man. And now that person who may have been revered by other people has found himself in a prison. How shameful must that have been for him? And shame, again, shame can cause anger. Shame can cause bitterness. Shame can cause resentment. And shame is a bar that keeps you imprisoned. And these four things, bitterness, anger, resentment, and shame, they have the power to disempower you. They have the power to stop you from being who you're supposed to be. But the power is in your hands. The thing about mental bondage, the thing about mental imprisonment, the powerful thing about mental imprisonment is that you have what it takes to be free. You have the keys to be free. The key to your release, the key to your own freedom is in your own hands. That's the main difference between mental imprisonment and physical imprisonment. Because with physical imprisonment, the keys is probably in someone else's hand, the government's hand, Her Majesty's hand. But mental imprisonment, even if someone else has the key to your release, you still have a key to get to that person who has the ultimate key. The first key is in your hands. So what is my goal? My goal is to first help you recognize that the reason you're stuck is really not anyone else's fault. It is because of how you've interpreted or received or taken onto yourself what other people have done. You may be bitter, you may be angry, you may be resentful, you may be full of shame because of what someone else has done, but you get to choose how you respond to people's actions. And in our next session, I'm going to be looking at keys to freedom. Because my goal, my intention, my whole intention for doing this very short series is to ensure that you get free from behind those bars. Remember, all freedom is a choice, so choose wisely. Until next time, bye for now.